So this is how startup funding typically works. It all starts with an idea, either to create a great product or a service. You discuss this with a friend of yours and he is on board as well, and we can call you guys co-founders. So the next step would be to have the pilot of the product or service ready, and once you are ready with the pilot, you would want to have a more structured way of doing things. This is when you actually incorporate a legal entity, whether an LLP or a private limited company, and to run the show you would need funds. So initially you have the option of putting your own funds into the company or raise funds from friends or family, which is also called crowdfunding. So you go ahead and set up a private limited company with a share capital of say 10 lakh rupees. That would mean the two co-founders will have 50,000 shares each, and together they will be holding 100% stake in the company. So if you are raising your first round of investment via crowdfunding, how will you know how much of stake that you are willing to forego or dilute? Say you are valuing your company at hypothetical number of 2 crore rupees based on certain calculations or numbers which you feel is appropriate. Now, there are two kinds of valuation. One would be pre-money valuation, which is basically the number that you arrive at, and the second is post-money valuation, which is basically pre-money valuation plus the round of investment that you are looking at. For example, if you value your company at 1.5 crores, which is pre-money, and if you are looking to raise 50 lakhs in investment, then post-money valuation would be 1.5 crores plus 50 lakhs, that would make it 2 crores. Now, if your post-money valuation is 2 crore rupees and you are looking for a fund of 50 lakh rupees, that would mean that you will have to dilute 25% of stake in the company. That is, 12.5 would be diluted by one co-founder and 12.5 by the other, making it 25%. So now the two co-founders will collectively hold 75% stake in the company, and the investors or the people as part of the crowdfunding team would hold 25% stake in the company. Another important aspect which many of us are not aware of is that when you are onboarding investors, it does not mean that the stake which is or shares which is held by you is transferred to the incoming investors, but new shares are allotted to the investors to accommodate their investment. So now you are at a stage where two things can happen. You are not able to make it successful and eventually you shut down the business and close down the company, or you reach a stage where you need further round of funding to either spend on technology or infrastructure or a brilliant team. This is when you reach a stage where you will need seed funding. So at this stage, you either approach angel investors or early stage VC funds. Whatever they bring in would again go to the company for achieving its growth. The promoters or the crowdfunding investors would not get any money out of this round. So as part of the investment, there would again be dilution for both the promoters and the crowdfund investors. For example, if you are issuing say another 20% to the VC or angel investor, the 20% dilution will happen between the co-founders and the crowdfunders in the ratio of their shareholding. The eventual shareholding would be 60% to be held by co-founders and 20% to be held by crowdfunders and another 20% to the investors who have just come on board. So it's time to take it to the next level where you are doing great in business, you have a wonderful product and you have your set of customers and you want to scale it to the next level. So this is where you will have to connect with larger VC funds or PE funds, and this is actually called as Series A investment. So the whole concept of valuation and dilution at Series A is more or less similar to the earlier stages. The only difference is that at this stage, some of the early investors or maybe even the promoters could get a part exit and make some money for their own. And of course, this would also depend on the term sheet, which is basically a document which would highlight the terms of the investment, and this is applicable at more or less all stages. So the term sheet would actually talk about what would be the utilization of the funds that are brought in, what would be the conditions which will be imposed on the investors and the promoters, and some of the clauses which would generally govern the functioning of the company. So for any business, this funding of Series A could eventually lead to Series B, C, D and so on, till such time the business is able to sustain on its own. But the final exit for all the investors, including the promoters or co-founders, would either be by way of an IPO or initial public offering, where the shares of the company is purchased by the public, or by way of buyout by an MNC.